It's the final reckoning, but is it actually final? Let's find out.
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Once more unto the bridge, dear friends.
Again and again until we're both dead.
There's only like 12 stories. They change around little details, but they're all pretty much the same.
Deja vu. Something very familiar about it.
Hello, welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews and connections of mind. Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning is the 8th film in the Mission Impossible film series, once again directed by Christopher McQuarrie, and once again, of course, featuring Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, once again sent on a mission to save the world from the previous film's villain, The Entity, an AI program bent on destroying the world with the nuclear arsenals of various nations, and is up to Hunt and his team of the Impossible Mission Force to stop them and save the world. Now, this review will contain spoilers of Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, as well as certain other things. I'll be doing my spoiler-free thoughts first and foremost, though, but just so you know, there will be spoilers later on in this review, so first things first, let's get into some spoiler-free talk on Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning. Is this a good action movie? Do the stunts live up to the hype? How does it stack up with the other Mission Impossible films? I would have to say, my opinion on the Mission Impossible franchise is that it probably peaked around Rogue Nation or Fallout. Probably Fallout. I quite enjoyed Dead Reckoning Part 1, or rather it's Dead Reckoning now, as they removed the Part 1. But it's been on a decline, and I have to say, while this movie does have some entertaining elements to it, the stunts especially, this is a step down in my opinion, and I feel like that's not the fault of any of the actors in this movie, because no one's really phoning it in as far as I'm concerned with their acting. It's just that they're let down by the writing, and the best way I can describe this is again, maybe this becoming a more rare sight these days for audiences. But picture yourself watching an episode of network television. Let's say NCIS, one of my favorite series. You all have characters repeat dialogue and recap the case, over the course of that 40-minute episode until the end. That's because they have commercial breaks in between. And once you come back from the commercial break, you don't know when someone joined the show. They could have, popped in at, the 15-minute mark or the 30-minute mark. You don't know. So you put in these extra recaps to keep the audience caught up on the case just for that audience. And that's just kind of how network television is written. And a lot of people don't like that. I've gotten used to it over the years. It's just how it is. With this movie, though, it's 2 hours and I believe 40 minutes long, and there are no commercial breaks. And people have probably been paying attention. They paid money to see this in theaters, and you're sitting down. Your attention should theoretically be focused on the screen, assuming you're not, one of those people who are flipping through their phone in the movie theater. Don't be that person. You still have people in characters just spouting off, yes, this is the plan, this is what the stakes are, and the fate of the world is the stake. All right, here, jump to a different location. All right, here's the plan, here's what we're going to do, here's the stakes, here, the fate of the world is in our hands. And they do that like 7 or 8 times throughout the entire movie, and it's so annoying. And the worst part of it is, what time was dedicated in the previous film, where we watched Dead Reckoning prior to going into this movie, is that new characters like Haley Atwell's Grace and Palm Clementif's Paris, when we were given time in the previous film to give them personality and show their interactions with other characters, Here, that gets pushed aside because, oh, well, they have to rehash the plan again. They have to rehash the stakes again and again and again. And it's like, enough. We know what the stakes are. Just let these characters be characters. Like, one of the best parts of Dead Reckoning, in my opinion, was the new chemistry that that Ethan and Grace had as Ethan's this, he's got the roguish charm thing going on, but also, Grace is this, this pickpocket who is in way over her head, and she doesn't know it. She's doing her best to cover up, but she's a new addition to the team, and they have great chemistry together. Here, they don't really get time to interact with one another, and that's a huge bummer, in my opinion. And even other characters like Ving Rhames Luther, like they don't get a ton of time together, or time with Benji and Ethan. Like, so much character development, allowing us to experience, yes, these are world-ending stakes or whatever, and you got a ticking clock. Yes, that's table stakes for a Mission Impossible movie. We get that. Let us have time to bond with these characters. Let them be characters. It's not enough to at the end of here's our sixth recap of the plan and the stakes, and here's where we are on the plan, and here's the fate of the world stake, and just throw in a quippy one-liner at the end of all that. It's like, oh, that's a great line. All right, that scene makes it entirely worthwhile. No, that does not help. So if I'm harping so much on the writing on this so much, is because it lets down what could be this series rather swan song. And what every series, a long-standing series, wants to go out with a bang, and I feel like this could have gone off with a bang because as all the advertising goes, it's not quite as bad as Dead Reckoning, just because I learned my lesson from that. I tried to avoid a lot of the advertising after that. So what's in the advertising, the big stunt is the plane chase between the two planes in and out of these cliffs. I believe we're in South Africa. Is really spectacular, and it looks great. Although I will say there are a couple shots rather, in that sequence where it looked the way Ethan's moving, like he's bouncing on the side of the plane or whatever. It looks like it's more obvious than other shots would be, I think, that Tom Cruise is being held by his safety harnesses that they obviously digitally erased, and the way his body moves, it looks like if he had no safety harness, he would have been flung off of that airplane. So that is a bit of a letdown, but overall that is spectacular. There's also a great suspenseful scene where Ethan has to go into the bowels of a sunken submarine, which is great staging, although you kind of I was having a hard time wrapping my head around the logic of the staging, because they clearly say that this submarine was sunk in 2012 and this movie takes place present day, so you're talking 12, 13 years in between here, and there's somehow still air in the submarine. But so it's like, I don't think so. But then again, they had to have some air pocket in there just so that they could have the cool water, rotating water things going on, which is very spectacular. Like I said, the stunts do not disappoint in this movie. If you get a chance to see this in IMAX, I highly recommend seeing it there. And, if this does prove to be the final reckoning, like, as anyone who is a fan of the Final Fantasy games, you call your game series Final Fantasy, and yet they're on installment, I think, number 13 or 14 or something like that. Final never really means final in these things, but it really felt like they wanted this to be, if this was going to be a final, then, this is going to be the capstone, right? This is going to be, the crowning achievement. And they start out this movie with, the the typical Ethan Hunt, here's your mission, and they started with reminders like, Ethan, you have served through all these years on so many impossible missions and saved the world countless times, intercut with clips from all of the previous Mission Impossible movies, and it's like, yeah, this feels like a crowning achievement capstone. It feels weird that we're doing this in the first 5 minutes of the movie instead of at the very end, but whatever. Yeah, but then again, they probably did that so that they can leave the door open for future installments. You might think that's a spoiler, but come on, we know how Hollywood works at this point. They leave the door open for franchises until they run into the ground, like they said with Hugh Jackman in Deadpool Wolverine. Oh, Disney's gonna have you playing that part till you're 90. It's like, yeah. Tom Cruise, he's gonna probably be playing Ethan Hunt until he has a serious life altering injury trying to do one of these stunts for a Mission Impossible movie. And even then, they'll probably figure out a way to just CGI his body onto a stunt double and just have him keep going on that front. But if this is going to be a final installment, it's fine, but it could have been better, I think. So if I was going to give Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning a letter grade, I would say this is a B-. And that's just because, all the let down by all the writing and just the repetitiveness and lack of character dynamics and the charm from all that is missing from that. If that was there, it would have easily been an A movie for me. But like I said, that does weigh it down for a bit. And if I was going to weigh in The Final Reckoning on the scale of unoriginality, I would say this weighs in at less than original. You've seen it before, but it could be worse. So those are my main spoiler-free thoughts on Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning. Now let's get into some spoiler talk as to certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. Only a couple things in here, smaller things. I mean, one, the whole AI threat trying to gain control of the world's nukes in order to end the world. You could say, that's part one plan of Ultron and Avengers: Age of Ultron, but also you have to you can't help but think of Wargames in that front. It's been done to death. It's a classic trope. I don't mind them using it again here. That's fate of the world stakes. You end up repeating yourself after a while there. So there's that, of course. The descent into the Sevastopol, the sunken Russian submarine where the source code is. That actually made me think of The Abyss, where Ed Harris's character has to put on the special ultra high pressure suit with the gel or whatever that he breathes in or whatever that allows him to breathe at high at low depths or whatever. The build up for this scene, and has to do Ethan has to do the breathe in of the special gases and special pressure suit. To go down 500 feet to get to the submarine. That just made me think of that, and I'm sure if James Cameron had been directing that scene, he would have had plenty of notes on that front. In the finale, the fact that the entity is going to be trapped in this They explain it as a weird, a fifth dimensional tesseract data storage cube or whatever that it glows. Just they yada yada through that explanation. That's fine. I don't care so much about that front. But it did make me think of an episode of Star Trek Next Generation called Ship in a Bottle, where another malicious entity, artificial intelligence, namely the hologram Moriarty, takes over the Enterprise, and they manage to trick him and get control of the ship back by trapping him in this memory cube, where it's he doesn't know that he's been trapped in here, and so that made me think of the entity's now trapped in this glowing yellow cube or whatever, this rectangle or whatever it is. So there's that. And finally, the fact that this is a long-running franchise, we're now getting to the point where we're having to retcon various plot elements of previous movies to make it think, oh, it's all been leading up to this now. The fact that they mentioned that the building blocks of the entity, its source code, was hidden in the Rabbit's Foot, the mysterious MacGuffin mystery box from Mission Impossible 3. It's like, oh, well, if he'd known what he knew now, he would have destroyed it instead of handing it over to the government. It's like, that's, I don't mind it as much as other like long series retcons because that was an intentional mystery box. We never know what exactly is in there, but it did feel weak to me. It was feeling very little too close for comfort to series such as the Fast and Furious franchise, specifically like Fast X, where we see Jason Momoa's character. It was like, oh yeah, he was. I think it was like the son or the favorite henchman of the drug lord who was killed in Fast Five or whatever, and he's been. It's like, oh, it's been all leading up to this now. It's like, no, that character was not there that whole entire time, and you're pretty much breaking continuity just by doing that. And it's because it's the 10th movie of the franchise. They're running out of ideas. They gotta do something on that. So I would say that retcon with Mission Impossible wasn't quite as bad as that, but it's a little too close. But maybe you feel differently. What did you think of Mission Impossible Final Reckoning? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What about my analysis? Do you agree, disagree? Did I miss something? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my next movie review, which will be for Karate Kid Legends, which comes out May 30th, I believe. So be sure to look for that. And if you like this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. But just remember, there's nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.